Hello all, Accionoctem here with a brief look at some Skyrim gameplay. Today, we're taking a look at the Embershard Mine. This mine is located just southwest of the small town of Riverwood, which is the first town you come to after being freed. This is not a very long dungeon at all, which makes it great if you're a bit short on time or just don't feel like drifting too far from the main storyline right now. It's just your basic bandit hideout. I didn't find any truly noteworthy loot on this particular playthrough. However, it does give you a decent amount of XP and gold, which is always a good thing. I ventured into this mine before going after any of my quests, so I don't even have my first dragon shout at this point. Here you'll see that I've run into 2 bandits already, whom aren't too happy to see me. They're both melee NPCs, so this should be a fairly easy fight since I've gone with a traditional board and sword style of play. Although technically in this case, I guess my sword's a mace. One of the things that I love about Skyrim is the wide array of combat playstyles that you can choose from without being forced into picking a class from the start. Unfortunately, you do need to be somewhat careful because it is possible to wind up with a combination that will screw you over later in the game. For obvious reasons, you don't want to spend all of your points in speech and enchanting while neglecting your combat abilities. And sadly enough, I have seen people do that and then complain about how hard and unfair the game is. Be smart with your choices and you won't have any problems. Skyrim's gameplay is just difficult enough to keep you on your toes while not being so insanely hard as to cause a great deal of rage quitting. Here I've picked up a pickaxe and I'm going to mine some iron ore. Now right here I'm going to be a little bit picky and just say that I feel the mining animation is too lengthy. There's nothing exciting about hitting a rock with a pickaxe, and while I'm sure it takes a fair amount of time to mine ore in real life, it just feels bland when I'm in hostile bandit territory. I'm sure some of you will be saying that it's more immersive. It is an RPG after all, and I can understand that. But personally, I just want to get to the action in the story. Role-playing as a miner just isn't my thing. Here it looks like someone met a rather unhappy end. But they left behind some gold coin, so yay for me. They've also left behind a journal, which I'm not going to read to you. I'm sure it's interesting, but now you know where to find it if your curiosity is overwhelming. As much as I love the Elder Scrolls games, I rarely find myself taking the time to stop and read the books and notes scattered throughout the world. I know I'm probably missing out on a ton of great lore, but I don't think I'd ever finish the game if I stopped to read everything I came across. I'm sure that will drive some of you out there crazy, but that's just my playstyle. More power to you if you actively seek out and read all of the literature available in the game. It's not something I could ever see myself doing. Not to mention it would probably make a pretty boring video if I sat here and read in-game books to you. Alright, as you just saw a few seconds ago, I pulled a lever which made those platforms drop down and form into a bridge. 2 more bandits, alarmed by their bridge suddenly lowering, have just crossed over it and seem to be searching for me. I'll just pull out the bow here, and that was a pretty awful shot. Completely missed the bandit and only succeeded in pissing him off. And that's why I don't usually roll with a ranged class. Back to my trusty mason shield to smash in some bandit faces. Once again, they're both melee, which at this level makes for a pretty basic fight. They're both going to go down pretty quickly here, and I gained a point in heavy armor. Okay, that last blow looked pretty painful. You'd really expect bandits to have more money on them than that. I've seen wolves drop more than just 3 gold. At least the other one had a bit more on him, plus a gem and a lockpick. Alright, so off to the bridge to see what's on the other side. You know, originally I tried a 2-hander type character, but it drove me insane having my weapon take up so much of my screen. I know you can sheath your weapons, but it just didn't seem practical, constantly putting my weapon away and then pulling it back out every time I ran into another bad guy. Not to mention the delay between unsheathing your weapon and taking that first swing almost always caused me to get a face full of the other guy's sword right off the bat. Here we have a room with a nice looking chest, a spell scroll, and some scattered coins inside. We also have another bandit, and here he comes to meet my mace. And once again, he's another melee NPC. I got another point to my one-handed stat, and a level up. I won't bother to take the time to spend that point until afterwards. I doubt that's anything you'd want to see anyway, at least not in this video. Looks like you dropped a key, so we'll have to figure out what that goes to. And now into the room for some nice loot. Looks like we have a couple of weapons hanging on the rack. Nothing spectacular, at least not for me. A couple mushrooms, and a spell tome for clairvoyance, which I believe is the spell that creates a path for you to follow to your quest objective. Grabbed a couple of coins left on the table, and now what's in the chest? A great sword, 78 gold, and 5 lockpicks. Not too bad for this level. And it looks like there's really nothing else worthwhile in there. And it looks like we found the door for the key that bandit dropped, and there's a lot of nothing inside here. So off we go to pursue some more treasures, or XP, whatever you value most. I'm sure there's more bandits. I really haven't run into very many so far. Seems to be a pretty scarce dungeon. And that looks like a coin purse. And speaking of bandits, here comes another one. He's another melee NPC. We'll just dispatch of him quickly here with the old mace. And there we go. Another very poor and now very dead bandit. Okay, it looks like we have another bandit in the middle of that bridge over there. I'll give the old bow another try. Maybe I'll actually hit him this time. Just get into position here, and yes, I think I actually hit him. He doesn't seem to have detected where I'm at yet. It's nice to see a game that doesn't give away your position as soon as you shoot an arrow. Too many games seem to have the same issue of NPCs just automatically being able to pinpoint your location immediately upon seeing or feeling your arrow. And here comes his buddy, so back to my mace and shield. An increase to my block stat. And this guy really goes down just as easily as all the others. There we go. Now, as I was saying a moment ago, it's just not realistic for an enemy to be able to instantly know where I'm at from a single flying arrow. I can understand if they happened to be facing me at the time and saw the angle from which my arrow came, but if I'm shooting you in the back or in the side, then I expect you to be somewhat disoriented for a few moments. I'm glad to see that Bethesda went with these more realistic mechanics. I have to say that overall Skyrim feels much more like Morrowind than Oblivion to me, which is a great thing. They were both great games, don't get me wrong, but I was actually pretty disappointed with Oblivion. Morrowind was amazing. I played the crap out of that game, explored every dungeon and ruin, collected every piece of armor. I poured months into that game and was so hyped up over Oblivion, until I really sat down to play it. Some things were a definite improvement, but the main storyline felt repetitive. All of the Oblivion gates were basically the same. Each one opened into the Plains of Oblivion, where everything was almost the same again. It was set up in the same layout, same mobs, same goals. Thankfully, Skyrim does not seem to suffer from this at all. So far, all of the quests have been pretty unique from one another, or as unique as an RPG's quest can get, anyway. And over here, we have a coin purse and another chest. Just need to open it up. And there we go. Okay, 53 gold. Alright, as I was saying, I've not had a single moment in Skyrim where I felt like the game was dragging on, or like I just didn't want to do a quest. Even making alt characters and replaying over the same quest several times hasn't bored me yet, which is much more than I could say for Oblivion. I played completely through that game once, and that was enough. I tried over and over again to make other characters, but I just couldn't bring myself to face those damned Oblivion gates again. Here we have another chest with some gold, a scroll of Bane of the Undead, and some iron boots. Even if you don't use the scrolls, you should always try to pick them up. They sell for quite a bit. And it looks like we have another coin purse, and some scattered coins, and a couple of gems. Those should sell nicely as well. And that looks like all of the good loot here. So we'll just head back on out. And now we're coming to the exit of the mine. So I ask that you please remember to like this video if you enjoyed it or found it useful, and please subscribe. There will be many more videos to come covering several games such as more Skyrim footage, Star Wars: The Old Republic, and League of Legends. I will also be covering Guild Wars 2 once it is launched and the NDA has been lifted. Thank you for watching.